Liverpool has just dropped plans for a massive £1.2 billion new skyscraper district, spanning 8 acres to the north of the city centre. Shaped by world-class architects and designers, this incredible master plan brings together a 5-star hotel, Grade A offices and apartment buildings alongside cafes, bars and restaurants extending the city's stunning waterfront. It'll bring a £130 million annual boost to the local economy, bring £10 million more a year to local tax revenues, and will be home to over 5,000 residents when built. They're proposing 10 new buildings in total, the tallest of which will be 70 stories or 222 metres and will become Liverpool's new tallest building. That's nearly 60% taller than the current tallest building in the city, and if it was built today, it would be the 5th tallest building in the UK. So the first 23 floors will be a hotel. That'll be from like the ground to the 23rd floor, and then all of the floors above that to the top floor, to the 70th floor, there'll be 563 new homes. And the hotel element of the scheme is perfectly positioned adjacent to Liverpool's rapidly expanding cruise ship terminal. You're getting an increasing number of cruise ships that are rocking up in Liverpool every single year, and I guess this hotel is going to be perfectly positioned to take advantage of passing trade going through there. And it has this smooth glass frontage. You can see from this render that it is quite a distinctive shape, and there are these 4 cutouts all along the facade where the facade is stepped back, and instead you get this like roof terrace with loads of planting and greenery hanging off the side of the facade. I'm not sure if these are like private balconies for the penthouses on these floors, or if they're like communal roof gardens that will be shared by all of the residents of this building. It's not clear yet. Obviously all of that greenery is not going to be there from like day one. It will take time to grow. This is just an artist's impression kind of thing. It obviously looks amazing here. It'll be interesting to see if that materializes. But those roof gardens and all of these apartments and the hotel will offer incredible views across the city and across the wider kind of Liverpool Bay area, all the way over to the Wirral and all the way out to sea. And then the lower floors are defined by this like massive opening. You can see that there. The facade cuts away and the entrance to this building is like celebrated with what looks like a multi-floor, 4 or 5 story lobby space, which will create an absolutely astounding entrance. And that opens directly onto the public realm here. So that'll be an awesome centerpiece for this particular bit of the master plan. And I want to talk about the public realm on this master plan for a little bit, because the whole master plan will actually be built on a podium. It'll be built on a raised podium, so all car parking and servicing and all of that sort of stuff will be underneath with the buildings slightly above. It'll be a 2-story parking podium which will also contain all of the servicing for the apartments, all of the servicing for the retail and the restaurants, things like that. All of that will be moved totally underground, and that means that leaves all of this space between these 10 new buildings to be totally pedestrianised. So you can see there's going to be like parks and squares and little streets in between the buildings. I'm imagining having restaurants and cafes and things like that spilling into these spaces here. And so here's a good view at ground level. So although these 10 new buildings are pretty massive, I think they've done pretty well at ground level to break up that massing quite nicely. So you can see that this street scene in particular really feels quite cozy. You wouldn't know that right above you here is like a 70-story building. Because the streets have been made to feel quite narrow, you haven't got this vast expanse of space in between each of the buildings, which would make it feel quite windswept. Instead, you've got these really tight podiums, these quite small and intimate little street areas, nice warm lighting. Again, I know we're looking at an artist's impression here, so they're always going to make it look amazing. Whether it'll turn out like this, we'll find out in, however many years. But the renders look cool, the renders look really promising. And this retail frontage here interested me because it looks a bit like a renovated heritage railway viaduct. You see these railway viaducts all over UK cities, and they get brought back into use and they get turned into like restaurants and businesses and things like that. And I thought, I didn't know there was an old railway through this area, and I went and looked at the site, and there isn't any railway through this area. There never was, as far as I know, but this is a new structure that they've built to look like a railway viaduct. And I find that really interesting because these sorts of structures are obviously iconic to a lot of UK cities, but I think I've yet to see one built in the modern era to look like a railway viaduct. I think that's really unique, and I think it's a nice little touch to bring retail and restaurants and businesses onto the street here, to create a podium underneath these big skyscrapers, to do it in a way that feels quite familiar. So it's a nod to the city's architecture and its history, and it's a really clever way, I think, of making the spaces between these massive skyscrapers feel a little bit more intimate, feel a little bit more human scale. And I think that building that sits on top of the railway viaducts there, I think that is one of the apartment buildings, and I want to have a look at that. So here's another view of that. You have these double or even triple height arched brick windows going on, red brick, yet again very much reflective of the Liverpool sort of architectural vernacular. Liverpool is known for having a lot of red brick buildings. It is the local stone in the northwest of England, and that glass facade has been pushed to the back, and that really gives those arches, those brick arches, a little bit more definition and helps them to pop a little bit better as well. And yeah, this is the image that really had me fooled into thinking that this was like an old railway viaduct, and I really did look. I looked at the site, even looked at some old maps of the area, and I can't see, maybe I'm wrong, but I can't see anywhere where there used to be a railway running through this area. So it looks like they're just going to build this like brand new to look like a railway viaduct, which I don't mind actually. I guarantee there's a railway arches like this in pretty much every UK town and city, at least those that have a railway, obviously. So here they've used that to create new spaces for businesses. They've used that to line this street with a bit of active frontage. And here's a view from the other side of that building. So it's another lovely looking pedestrian street that seems to run right through the middle of the development. So we've got more of a stone texture along the ground floors here, but we still retain that red brick colour of the rest of the building, and it hits the ground floor here with this like double height retail or like lobby frontage. And then next door you have this little beauty sandwiched between all of the other massive buildings that they're proposing on this site. And the tall buildings are great, and we're going to talk more about them in a second. They've all grabbed headlines and they're all going to transform Liverpool's already amazing skyline. But I have to say, I think this might be my favourite of all of the buildings proposed on this master plan. It has echoes of the Square Colosseum in Rome, with its 216 arches over 6 stories. That was built in a sort of a modern classical style. And again, that facade has been set back a little bit, which allows for these like awesome balconies running all the way around. And there's what looks like a double height penthouse on the top floor there, which again looks amazing. It's just an awesome looking building. They've obviously gone with this cream-coloured texture on the outer bit of the facade, but then this like red-ish tinted colour on the inside, and I think those two work really, really well. It almost looks a little bit Gaudi-esque as well. It has that vibe to it, and I'm enjoying seeing this classical modernism returning to architecture a little bit in the modern era that slots really nicely in between those taller elements. It almost acts like a step down from these massive towers in the background to the public square. You have this almost like a stepping stone building just sitting there and bridging the gap between the public space and the massive skyscrapers behind, and I really like that. But let's focus on some of those tall buildings because they do look really cool as well. The tallest building, as I mentioned, is going to be 70 stories. That's grabbed a lot of headlines in Liverpool because it's going to be the new tallest building in Liverpool. The other buildings on the master plan seem to range between about 30 and 40 stories. So they're going to provide a bit of a base on the skyline for this 70-story building in the middle. Having these other infill buildings will enable the skyline to step up towards it. So those buildings that you can see along the waterfront, they already exist. They've all been built in the last few years or so. So you're already getting the beginnings of like a skyline forming in this particular part of Liverpool. So a lot of Liverpool's tallest buildings are clustered towards this end, towards the north end of the city itself. So this is just adding to what's already there and expanding on it for sure, but adding to what is already being built in Liverpool already. That red brick building on the left there at the back, that's named as like the first phase of this development. So that's already got planning approval. That was granted planning approval, I think in like February 2026. That is a 28-story apartment building with 255 homes in total. And that's like ready to go already. So the developers of that building are also the developers for the whole master plan. So as I said, that's going to form like phase 1 of the whole thing. And they're saying that it will start construction in February 2027. And it's that building that we have the most detailed renders for. So we have this shot here. A very, very vibrant red brick is being used. Lovely detail detailing along those ground floor bits there. To have this building looking so good, I think bodes well for the rest of the master plan. So you still have that lovely detailing. It's quite a simple building, I get it, but it's quite elegant, I think, in and of itself. It's the details that I like the most. You might look at this and be like, what are you talking about? This just looks like a normal apartment building. And it does, no, I get it. But I like the detailing, I like the brickwork. I think this bodes well for the rest of the master plan. I think this is a good sign. And obviously I'm looking forward to this starting construction. Hopefully it will start construction in February next year, because obviously if this goes successfully, then the rest of the master plan will follow. And it's hard to overstate how much demand there is in Liverpool for something like this. This is a city that is growing rapidly and is bulging at the seams. House prices here have risen at 33% over the last 5 years, faster than any other UK regional city and nearly 8% higher than the national average. And median incomes here are also rising above the national average and well above inflation. In fact, Liverpool and neighbouring Manchester have seen incomes rise faster over the last 10 years than any other part of the UK. Student numbers at Liverpool's 5 universities have jumped by nearly 14,000 since 2014, giving it the fastest rate of growth across all cities in northern England. While Liverpool's city centre population, the number of people living within a 2-mile radius of the heart of the city, has leapt from 45,000 in 2004 to over 80,000 in 2024, adding 35,000 people. But against this backdrop, the city hasn't delivered anywhere near enough homes to harness all this growth. 12,520 new homes have been built here since 2010. By comparison, nearly 38,000 homes have been built in neighbouring Manchester over the same time. And despite seeing all this growth, Liverpool sits well below comparative cities in terms of housing delivery. Barnsley, a small town in Yorkshire, has delivered more homes than Liverpool since 2009. So a development like this is justified to enable Liverpool to catch up and address some of its enormous pent-up demand. And Liverpool is one of only a handful of cities in the UK that have like a view looking out to sea. Off the top of my head, yeah, there's Liverpool, Cardiff, Portsmouth, Brighton. I'm definitely missing something. Oh, Southampton. There's like Edinburgh, Newcastle and Belfast. They're near the coast, but they're not quite on the coast. Liverpool is like by far the largest coastal city in the UK, and therefore it has, I believe, the most skyline potential. I mean, it already has a phenomenal skyline. It already has a world-renowned skyline. So this is just, I believe, the next phase of Liverpool's skyline. The only thing I wish, just looking at this picture, is I wish it just had more of a peak. The tallest building, the 70-storey there, just has like a flat roof, whereas some of the other tall buildings they've proposed have more of a crown. And I almost sort of wish they'd made some of those other buildings the tallest and had this one maybe 40 stories, just because it's a flat top. And I'm like, you know, if you're going to build the tallest building in the city, make it have something on top. So they haven't built as many tall buildings as places like Manchester or Birmingham or London over the last 20 years, namely because up until a few years ago they had UNESCO World Heritage status, which governed this entire part of the city centre. That iconic area around the pierhead, around the Liver building and things like that, that UNESCO were really, really hot on protecting. So that meant that was a kind of block for a lot of development up around this part of the city. So therefore they haven't had the sort of the tall buildings boom that we've seen in other parts of the UK. And it's worth looking at where this development is actually proposed. So it's this patch of land here that you can see just to the north of the city centre, and then all around it there is so much low-rise post-industrial dockland which absolutely has the potential to expand Liverpool's city centre northwards, creating some really special new waterfront neighbourhoods around these old docks. And they'll have these like massive sea views going all the way across the River Mersey and out to sea to the north there. And it is already happening, so you can see that Everton have built their new stadium up to the north there, and then these warehouse buildings here, there's some stunning old Victorian, I think, dock warehouses that have been converted to apartments recently, but you can very much see the potential. There's loads of old docks that could be built around, and you could have something similar to the Albert Dock. You could have something similar to even like Canary Wharf or something like that. And you can see a railway line there staking its way out of the city centre. That is the northern line of Liverpool's metro. And I've seen people online suggesting that a new station could be built here. It's not part of this plan, it's not an official Liverpool Council plan at the moment, but it is an idea, a suggestion from a few people, and I think it's a very good suggestion that will create a new transport link for this area and therefore kind of encourage the development of this area, because at the moment the train just goes all the way through, it doesn't stop. And we've already seen from London that you build a new train station somewhere and the development follows, so it'll be the same probably around here as well. And now they're also proposing a food hall, because everywhere needs a food hall nowadays. Looks like a bit of a market as well as a food hall. So yeah, I mean, anything that brings people into these types of places is good. And yeah, it just looks like a really cool space. It looks a bit like, it reminds me a bit of Coal Drops Yard in King's Cross, and that's worked really well. So if they can recreate something like that here, then fine, great. I do like I don't know if it's just the renders, maybe it is, but they seem to have also used like an old looking type of brick here on the sides. It just looks, I don't know, they've just used the brick that looks worn already. And I like that, it adds a bit of character. I don't know if, is that possible? Can they use worn out looking bricks in new developments? I guess anything's possible. So I won't be the only one fooled into thinking, oh yeah, this is an old converted railway viaduct. There'll be people that will genuinely think that this is a heritage asset that's just been here for ages, but it's all totally new build. But I'm here for it, I think it looks really good. And what I really like about this master plan is that all of the buildings proposed here seem to sit on some sort of like podium. So whether it's a podium that looks like a railway viaduct, or whether it's a podium that looks like this, that is a little bit more stripped back, it is right out of the Vancouver School of Architecture, or sort of Vancouverism. So basically when Vancouver was first going through its skyscraper boom in the 70s and 80s, they mandated that all skyscrapers have to sit above a podium. So instead of just having the skyscraper sort of hit the street, it meant that the skyscrapers were sat on top of a podium, which meant that it was the podium that had the street frontage rather than the skyscraper. And you might think that this is like a tiny detail, like why is that important? But it helps anchor the building to the street. It reinforces the public realm, pushes the building out into the street, which again narrows the street, makes it feel a bit more intimate. And we're seeing it a lot in UK skyscraper architecture at the moment. So in these examples in Manchester and London, this is further strengthened through the use of brick and kind of natural materials, which help to break down the mass of the building and make it feel more grounded, more anchored to the street. And these types of podiums also apparently stop the sort of the wind tunnel effect that you get with a lot of these skyscrapers. Apparently having a podium means that not as much of a gale hits the street, and therefore makes it a bit more pleasant to be walking around these kind of places. So as I said, a planning application for phase 1 has already been approved. It's that 28-storey building that the developers are saying they want to have on site in February 2027, and they want to have it completed by mid-2029. So hopefully that first phase will all go well, and that means that they can start then getting on with the rest of the master plan. They want to be on site with the rest of the development around 2029. It'll apparently create 900 construction jobs per year for 6 years while it's being built, and they have a completion date of 2035 forecasted. They want to get their planning application, their initial planning application in for the whole development in Q3 2026, so hopefully sort of September, October time I'll be able to do an updated video showing you those plans. And then they're hoping to start on site in, it says here January 2028 for phase 2. So it will come in phases, it will happen in phases. They're not going to build it all at once, I don't think. Let me know your thoughts, I'm really interested to hear them. Do you like this development? Do you agree that maybe the taller building should be swapped out for one of the other buildings so that we have more of a crown on Liverpool's skyline? If I do an updated video, I'll do it when there's a lot more renders to show you, because while these renders are really, really cool, I'd love to see more. I'd love to see more on the other buildings. We didn't really see much of the green building or the other tall buildings proposed on this site. There wasn't really much detail on those. So when they do that planning application, I'll definitely do an updated video if you're interested. Yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. This here shows my entire list of videos that I'm currently working on. They'll be coming out in the next kind of month or two. So if you don't want to miss any of those, make sure you're subscribed below. Maybe even hit that bell icon if you're super interested. Give this video a like, it really helps it get pushed out to a wider audience. And if you really, really, really want to support me, I also have a Patreon and a Buy Me a Coffee, which I'll put a link for in the description or here, and you can go and support me there if you like. Massive thank you to all of my Buy Me a Coffee and Patreon subscribers and my actual just normal everyday subscribers. You all are a massive source of support for me on this channel, and very much the reason that I make these videos, so thank you very much for your support. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.